Hi, I'm Saba Hocek, Director of Self-Empowered Minds, and today we're going to be talking about motivation and procrastination. We often end up procrastinating many times because we just don't have the motivation. So first of all, let's take a look at the reasons why we don't have motivation and we end up procrastinating. One could be a physical health issue. Secondly, it could be fear of failure. Third reason, it could be feeling overwhelmed. And the fourth reason is because we are too used to being in our comfort zone. So let's start off with the health. In order to be motivated, we need dopamine. It's naturally found in our bodies. We get the dopamine from rewards. Those rewards could be something like a hug, a praise. Any of those things give us the reward factor. When we have the reward, we have that motivation. Whether it's money may be a reward, getting a promotion, being recognized, being praised. All of these are our rewards. So in terms of health, now in order to get the dopamine, yes, we need that to come from the external, but also internally, some people are low in dopamine. So to increase that, exercise and also certain probiotic foods, so yogurt, sauerkraut, dried fruits and vegetables. Those are all ways that we can get probiotics, and those will help to physically increase the dopamine. So now let's take a look at how we can work with these, assuming that we're exercising and we're eating well. Now what? In order to have motivation, the one exercise to do is to write down those things that you already have achieved. So a person may say, oh, I'm never motivated. That's not true. First of all, we want to avoid any of those finite type of terms as never. There's always a time in your life where there was motivation. Whether that was seeing friends, going on a date, preparing for a job interview. There's always some point in life where you had that motivation. So those are the things that you want to look for. And you want to write down where you made achievements. So whether it's even as a little kid or as an adult, write those achievements down. What were the achievements? What motivated you to make that achievement? And list them, and then in your doing so, recall how that felt. Remember that feeling of once you did it, how great it felt. Maybe it felt great during it, and once you achieved it, it felt even better because that's where the dopamine came in. So you really want to go back, visualize it, use all your senses. The more that you use the senses, the stronger it will be. So recall what motivated you to take action, what the action was, what your achievement was, and how it felt afterwards. How were you feeling after that? Now, very often, we become overwhelmed with the number of things that need to be done. So if you're looking at, I've got to do this, whether it is a work project, whether it is, let's say, cleaning the house, doesn't matter. But if you look at it as one huge chunk it's easy to become overwhelmed with that. So what you want to do is break it down. Break down that project. Break down the house cleaning. Allow yourself to have a small piece. And that's going to make a big difference is once you break that down and see it in much smaller pieces. Visualize how, and actually say it. How do I choose to feel when I finish cleaning the house? When I finish this project? But how will I feel when? And notice I'm using the word when and not if. Because if means you may or may not get it done. When is telling the mind that you will get it done. So you're automatically creating a motivation at that point. So remember, how will I feel when? Okay? Now what we're going to do is apply a 10-minute rule. So if you look again at that huge project and you're looking at, oh my gosh, this is going to take me hours. Well, do I really want to sit down and do this for hours? No, I'll do it a little bit later. So leave that. Give yourself, I'm just going to do it for 10 minutes. That's it. I'll tell you, that's how I get to the gym all the time. I say, you know what? I'm just going to go there for 20 minutes. That's all I want for myself, and I'll be happy. But once I'm there and I'm working out, I never just stay for 20 minutes. So I end up doing the full workout. But I give myself that break that if I only do 20 minutes, I'm okay with it. If I have to do, let's just say, my taxes. I don't know anybody who enjoys doing taxes. And if you're one of them, good for you. It's not me. But if I say, you know what? I'm just going to do this for 10 minutes and that's it. Let me at least get started with it. Once you get started, it moves so much easier. So just give yourself the 10-minute rule and it'll make it much, much easier. Avoid saying things like, I'm never good with getting my taxes done. No, I choose. I choose not to get my taxes done. That has a very different feeling. I choose to be unmotivated. And suddenly it has, you're taking responsibility. I've always been like this. It's almost like, you're disowning that responsibility then. But when you use the word choose, you're really taking ownership. And it's not, when it's something unpleasant, we don't want to take ownership of it. And we start to feel, oh, that doesn't feel very good. I need to be responsible for it. The other thing I'd like you to do is write down all the things you dislike doing. And then what you're going to do is actually do them. So it's sort of the reverse. In other words, let's just say that you let the dishes pile up. So that's one of the things on your list. And you're going to go and say, okay, you know what? Part of training my brain to be motivated and to avoid procrastination, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wash the dishes right now. Spend, again, 10-minute rule. That's it. But what I want you to do during that process is see what the benefit is. what is happening when you're washing the dishes? Oh, well, you know what? Rather than going in with it saying, I hate to wash dishes, you're saying, I'm choosing to wash the dishes. As you're washing them, what was the benefit? Yes, you got clean dishes, it's out of the way. But what else is going on? Oh, well, you know what? I actually, when you wash dishes, it's sort of very meditative. Again, it's no real brain work. So it allows your mind to just drift and go off into wherever it may be, whether it is daydreaming, whether it's problem solving, but it is your quiet time. So that's a benefit. And then what you want to do is say, okay, how did I feel after? Well, actually, I felt pretty good that I finally got the dishes washed. I looked around and the place looks clean and that feels good. So what's important here is that you're training the brain, that you are seeing the benefit when you're out of your comfort zone. If you remain in your comfort zone, you're training your brain that that's the only path. So whether it is I'm not comfortable with strangers or whether it's I'm not comfortable washing dishes, it's all the same. You need to get out of that comfort zone and see the benefits during that process in order to retrain the brain. If you only go in there blindfolded and say, I hate these dishes, I hate washing dishes, such a waste of time, and so forth, and spend your 10-minute time that way, then you're just confirming to your brain that you have to remain in your comfort zone. If being among strangers is not comfortable, then go ahead, be out there. Take the 10-minute to, I don't know, the gym or the supermarket or wherever, and just chat with people who you don't know. It can be just a 2-minute conversation. It doesn't have to be anything long. But then right after that, recognize how you felt. Did it feel good? Feel nice to just talk to somebody. Maybe the person felt good and you could see that. So move out of your comfort zone. And lastly, there is no magic wand. All of these little tips and tricks are very helpful, but they won't come naturally. If you are the procrastinator, if you struggle with motivation. And yes, hypnosis helps to retrain the unconscious mind. If there's fear of failure, to bring healing to that. But it won't happen on its own. And as I always tell my clients, it's teamwork. As the hypnotist, I can do just so much. But at the end of the day, you need to put the effort into it. You need to push yourself out of that comfort zone in order to retrain the mind. Once you've retrained it, it's a piece of cake. Once you're there, that motivation comes automatically. But if you've been stuck in your comfort zone for a while, it's going to take effort. And these are the tools that are going to help you to get out of that pattern and create the new pattern. And trust me, when you have that, it's everything not only is easier, but it's done with just so much more pleasure. Oh, which reminds me, I forgot to mention one other thing, and that's that when you are doing a task that is not a fun task for you, So whether that task is your taxes, writing bills, going to the gym, doesn't matter. Find something fun to do with it. So make it fun. It doesn't have to be an awful experience. Whether that means, while you're doing your bills, to maybe turn on some music that you enjoy, or maybe having your, favorite cup of tea or something. But make it as enjoyable as possible.